Hey everybody, welcome to the second one of our Zoom cooperative review video. I will come up with a better title. Anyway, we're covering Unit 2 today, which as you will hopefully recall, was all about trade routes from 1200 to 1450. And there were two big things that we noticed you guys appeared to be struggling with on the discussion boards. And those two things are...
Cultural consequences of connectivity.
And the environmental consequences of connectivity. So we're going to tackle those in the order in which they are given, which is they are objectives 2.5 and 2.6 respectively. So we're going to look at the cultural consequences first. And if you've already got that down, or you're pretty sure you've already got that down, you can just click forward in the video a bit to get to the environmental consequences.
Yeah. So with cultural consequences, one of the biggest things that we really wanted to kind of hit there is we want to focus on the fact that obviously you've got a huge expansion of people moving around from 1200 to 1450. And obviously culture is going to be sort of carried along with trade items that we've started to look into. Some of the big things that we want to look into would be, for example, the push of Islam into the Spice Islands, or again, what is Indonesia today. And that area has already been, by this point, really kind of bombarded with other faiths moving around, Buddhism, right, Hinduism. So obviously we're seeing some shifts and some changes there. If we were to consider, again, what's going on in the Middle East and Africa, you're seeing more Islamic movement going on. Of course, carried throughout with like Mansa Musa and Ibn Battuta. And then, of course, for Asia proper, you've got the Mongols and their big push as kind of I like McDowell's word that we used earlier, he's a conduit of culture. So it's just really important to know that as trade is moving on, you're also making a huge push for cultures to start permeating other regions of the world.
Yep. And the key thing here is of the big three trade routes of the area, the Trans-Saharan trade route, the Indian Ocean trade route, and the Silk Road trade route, all three of them see culture spread along them. In the case of the first two, Trans-Saharan and Indian Ocean trade, it's largely Islamic culture spreading down into West Africa, over into East Africa, and over into Indonesia, because they were all trading with the Islamic heartland of Arabia, and in the Trans-Saharan trade route's case, also North Africa, which had by this point been heavily Islamized. In the Silk Road area, culture's a lot more blended. That's where you have the Mongols and their impact. That's where you have Chinese knowledge being brought to Persia and vice versa. It's where you have Europeans beginning to get access to some of this other stuff. Yes, as we'll discuss shortly, that does lead to the Black Plague, which is the part everybody remembers. But remember, that's where Europeans begin to get their access to Chinese knowledge, to Chinese goods, stuff like gunpowder weaponry, paper, probably the compass, maybe the lateen sail and the rudder that enables exploration. So all of this cultural blending stuff, in a lot of ways, is going to lead directly into the Age of Exploration, which is, of course, the topic and big event of our next time period, 1450 to 1750. With that, it's time, I think, unless Simpson's got something else to add, it's time for us to pivot into the environmental section.
Yeah, I think you did a great job hitting that one. For environmental, we're looking, again, what resources are really trading and moving around at this point. We're not quite yet there to the Columbian Exchange, but we're getting those goodies closer and closer to the Atlantic, if you've started to notice. We're pushing bananas, we're pushing sugar. And remember, kind of think back to that, summer reading that you guys did a long time ago about the importance of sugar. You're again thinking, why is that such a big deal in the Caribbean and, the Mesoamerican region? It's connected back to booze, which is kind of a big deal. So it's neat to see that you're moving a lot of just different trade goods closer and closer to the Atlantic. And of course, with that will eventually come slaves, but we're not there just yet. Smaller levels, I guess.
Yeah, and it's worthy to remember that two of the big crops, even up and unto this day of Latin America, are both native to Southeast Asia, bananas and sugarcane. This is the time period along the same trade routes where Islam was spreading. Those crops make their way to Africa, and slowly but surely, to the Mediterranean region. And as a result, the places that sugar was cultivated prior to the 1500s and its arrival in the Americas, places that sugar was cultivated were largely in the Islamic world, the Mediterranean, and over in India. Bananas were still principally an African crop. By this point in time, they're going to make their way across the Atlantic in our next time period. The other big environmental factor for crops is, of course, this is around the time period that Champa rice goes from Vietnam up into China and, of course, leads to a population explosion there. With regards to all of these crops, and indeed some more traditional crops being grown in greater quantities does, of course, have environmental consequences. Overgrazing is actually floated as one reason Great Zimbabwe got abandoned during this time frame. Overproduction had pushed Europe right to the brink of famine right when the plague hit, which made a bad thing already substantially worse, though it did have a good side because when people started dying, there was actually more food for survivors. And that connectivity and the plague itself does create a situation wherein both cultural connectivity and environmental connectivity, and even an earlier objective in this unit, the Mongol Empire, they all merge together in the form of the Black Plague. The plague coming over had environmental consequences. So many people died that Europe's ecology actually bounced back. There are people who have compared that to the bounce back the environment's currently enjoying during the COVID pandemic. You really can't do that because 50% of the human population hasn't died. But you've got a lot of really interesting stuff going on in this time period, and it's all due to connectivity. And this is the time period where we're talking about all these major trade routes, but Europe and obviously the Americas and Australasia for the most part aren't really a part of them. So make sure you know these trade routes pretty well. You should, if the question is on trade, if your DBQ is on trade this year, I really think you're going to see one of these routes pop up. And if nothing else, it'll make great contextualization. One last thing, sorry, I'm rambling. One last thing, and you do need to know this, we cannot cover all of this stuff in huge depth. Especially if your problem was with an objective that wasn't one of these two, you should really dig into either the AMSCO book or your notes. I know we covered all this stuff in there. If you have any questions, shoot me an email or remind. Shoot Mr. Simpson an email. We will be happy to answer those. Simpson, you got anything else?
No, not really. I think, again, you're hitting it on the head. If you guys can really see the flow and see how everything really is uniquely connected, you really can't miss this stuff. The detail and the depth is right. I mean, that's where your notes are going to come to play. Any readings that we've done, we're not going to spend hours making these videos that you're probably not going to watch beyond 4 minutes. Sorry, that's a low blow for my class anyway. But again, let us know what your in-depth questions are, and we'll be happy to get that for you.
Absolutely. Literally our jobs. Thank you for watching today. We'll see you later.
Take care.